and welcome back. This is Marla with Mad About Cards and Crafts, and today I have a card featuring the Florals and More release. This release is live now over in the Scrap and Cottage. I did do a demonstration over on my channel. I will link it in the description box, where I shared all of the products put together from this new release. I also compared them onto an A2 size card so you would get an idea of the scale. And in that demonstration, I did have a request to share how I colored up some of my flowers, and I'm going to do that today. I have the flower 6, which is the one on the far left. It does have the longer vine to it. I started with picked raspberry, blended in wilted violet for the stem or the vine portion of that. I did use mowed lawn and twisted citron. For my center flower, which is going to be, let's see here, it is flower 1. I colored that one with wilted violet, shaded lilac, and twisted citron. I did pull the wrong colors for this flower right here, which should be like flower 7. I did not use the scattered straw. I did mustard seed and I used squeezed lemonade. I noticed that as I was doing the demonstration of the ink blending with these distress inks, so I do apologize, but I actually used the squeezed lemonade on that flower, and then I used seedless preserves for I guess that's called the stamen. I'm going to color up these sweetheart lovebirds using antique linen and prized ribbon. I do die cut all of my images, and I like to put them on a Cricut mat. For me, this is the easiest way for me to do some ink blending. For the first flower, I am using the picked raspberry, and I'll be very heavy-handed, making sure that I go over it several times to get a very deep, vibrant color. It's one of my favorite distress ink colors. I wanted some contrast, so I did go with the wilted violet, which is a beautiful purple, and then I'll move on to the next flower. For the next flower, I will begin with the shaded lilac. And again, I'm being very heavy-handed, going over it several times, making sure that I have a lot of color down so that I have the vibrancy that I'm looking for. I'll add the wilted violet at the base or the bottom of each of the petals. And then off camera, I did go over it one more time with the wilted violet. For my next flower, I'm going to start with the seedless preserves, which is a much deeper purple than the wilted violet. It's a little bit more subdued, not quite as vibrant. And then, as I mentioned, on this flower, I am going to start with the scattered straw, but in the one on the upper right-hand corner, I actually use squeezed lemonade. And as I lay this color down, this is where I realize that I use squeezed lemonade, not scattered straw. You can see the difference. There's more of a brown in the yellow for the scattered straw than there is for the squeezed lemonade. But on both of them, I did do my shading with a small brush. This brush is from Amazon, and I did use mustard seed, and I used it down the bottom of all of the petals, excuse me. For all of my leaves, I did start with twisted citron. I think that it's just such a cheery, vibrant green, and so that was the base color for every leaf cluster that I have. For my first flower, I'm going to bring in that small brush again. This time I'm going to add mowed lawn to the bottom of each of the leaves, and also at the bottom of the neck that holds the flower. For the next vine, I'm only going to add it to the underside of each of the leaves. I'll skip it on the third flower, and I'm just going to add a heavier hand in some of the areas, not all over, just some of the areas of those leaves. And adding the 2 layers of Twisted Citron is still going to give me a little bit of dimension. For my whimsical birds, I did use the antique linen on the underbelly. I started with the antique linen because it is my lightest color, and then I will blend over that, the top portion of the bird, blending into that antique linen with my prized ribbon. I'll be very heavy-handed to make sure that my bluebirds are very, very blue. When it does come in contact with the antique linen, it will give a very, very faint green shade, but you don't even notice it when it's on the card. I'm going to use that smaller brush just to add a little bit of dimension by adding some darkness underneath the wings, and then I'll go over the entire bird again. And you can skip that step if you don't want to do that. You can just go straight with the heavy hand. I want a lot of contrast on this card because I did use bright, vibrant colors. So I do have a piece of navy cardstock that's been cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I'm going to adhere this embossed panel. I cut a white piece of cardstock to 3 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I used a beautiful Tim Holtz basket weave 3D embossing folder. I made sure to spritz the back of the paper generously with water to try to avoid some of the cracking. I still got a little bit of it, to be honest, on this die cut or on this panel, but it's okay. It's hardly noticeable, but you really, when you're using a 3D embossing folder, you really want to make sure that you do spritz that back of your cardstock with water just to allow the flexibility in the fibers. Rather than going with a floral cluster in the vertical orientation, I thought it would be really cute to add my flowers horizontally. Not only is it going to give the card a little bit different interest, but it's going to allow me a place for my birds to land. So while I'm placing these down onto the panel and arranging them, I did want to talk a little bit about the giveaway. I will be giving away the flower 1 in my next video. In order to qualify for a chance to win that, all you need to do is make sure that you leave a comment, like the video, and are a subscriber. Unfortunately, because of the shipping costs, this is open only in the United States. I've also listed that in the description box below. So I do apologize if you are outside the United States, but shipping is just getting to be so crazy, and so we are opening this only to U.S. citizens or residents, I should say, only. I did want to announce that the winner of the Whimsical Slimline Heart Die was Sue Baker, so congratulations, Sue Baker. All you need to do is contact Mary Marsh. Her email address is in the description box below. Let her know that you did win the Whimsical Heart Slimline from my last video, and she'll make sure to send that out to you. Back to the card, I have all of my flowers laid out. You can see that they create a beautiful place for my birds to land. Instead of putting them together as they were in the packaging as sweethearts, I am going to put one on this bottom flower and then the next one on the top. And I think that the whimsical look of the birds really matches the flowers. I did use squeezed lemonade for the beaks and added those beaks off camera. That die set, as I mentioned, does come with another branch, and then it does come with some other florals, but I thought that they fit perfectly with the flowers from the Flowers and More release. I have this sentiment from my stash that says happy birthday. I used the die to cut out the label, and then I used my Versamark ink to stamp out the happy birthday. I added Tim Holtz Distress Embossing Glaze in Picked Raspberry, so it's a perfect match to my bottom flower. And now I'm just adding a little bit of glue to the back behind each of the letters to camouflage that glue. So if I were to add the glue to the back of the vellum, it would be visible, but because I'm adding it to the back of the letters in the happy birthday, that will help camouflage that. Once I finish adhering it, I am going to fluff up those little stamens and accents on my flowers, and that will complete my card for today. So I hope you enjoyed this card. I hope you have went over to check out the new release. There's so many fun new items that are available. And again, if you're interested in seeing all of the products, how they look once the dies are put together and how they fit on an A2 size card, so you have an idea of the scale, you can click the link in the description box and head over to my channel and watch that video. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I always enjoy reading your comments. They're so encouraging. Until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks so much for watching.